Jack, how has independent film evolved since you started, and where do you see it heading?
Well, that's a good question. I always felt like when I started to make my films, independent movies, which were probably at the early 90s, was sort of like in a way, it's sort of the tail end of the first wave of independent cinema. In other words, like when I was in film school in the 80s, that's when you started to see, Jim Jarmusch really starting to make, waves, and Spike Lee and Hal Hartley and all these it was like sort of like the first wave of independent. And then like in the middle 90s, it sort of became much more commercialized as studios realized. It's like co-opting, it's like anything. It's like when they realized that, oh, you can make a movie for under $1 million and it can make a ton of money, well, let's like do that. So you sort of corporatized, and it became a different world, and it became a star-driven world, where now suddenly somebody calls, Little Miss Sunshine an independent movie, and it's like, well, if it's over $1 million and Greg Kinnear and Alan Arkin are in your movie, it's not really, I mean, you can call it an independent movie. I mean, look who's at Sundance, which was supposed to be, what it was supposed to be. It's like none of those movies are like, not have stars or even already have distributors. So that's a different, I think that it changed. I think what's interesting is now that more people are able to make movies, and because you can self-distribute on YouTube and so forth, that's really hopeful, because it used to be like you made your movie, and if you didn't get a distributor, then nobody saw it. Now, as many people as you can get it to can see it in a very clean, pristine form. So, I mean, a lot of people have talked about that. That's nothing new. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if people are going to... I don't think people are going to make that same jump anymore. Like everybody thought, well, I'll make a little movie and then I'll become Steven Spielberg. I don't know if that necessarily happens anymore. I think there's just too many filmmakers, and there's too many technically proficient filmmakers. So where it's going, I don't know. I think there'll be more independent movies. There's certainly more independent movies made, which is great. The trick is always going to be distribution, and it's like music. It's like there's a million great bands out there. How do I know where to find them unless somebody... Goes back to your question about like how do you get people to click on your thing. I think you just hope that somebody sees it, and that one person passes it, and that next person passes it. Maybe the next person he passes it to has a blog with a lot of people following, and then it just sort of disseminates. But I don't know. I would love to see, I think because more is getting made, the chances are that there's more good stuff out there. It's just now it's going to be a question of somebody hopefully pointing me in the direction and saying, hey, you should check this out.